I honestly do believe that the kind of energy you give out is the kind of energy you will receive. So if you try to remain a positive and good force for yourself and other people and the environment around you, that good energy will come back to you. I really do believe it. And if you're a negative, angry, just an energy that you're putting out into the universe isn't healthy, that's what you're going to receive. And if you look at studies, I've even read about it. Most of the time when people get cancer, a very significant percentage of these people before being diagnosed with cancer were under severe amounts of stress. So it's just the negativity brings on more negativity. So that's why I like to do things like today when we're helping the pigeon. It takes only a few minutes of my time to help something, and it means a whole load of difference for his life. And hopefully that'll come back to me one day.
This is Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org, here somewhere in an Asian country. Today, we are joined by the one and only Black Pigeon Speaks, undisclosed Asian area, undisclosed face for some reasons. But first of all, I always wanted to talk to you about your name and where it comes from. With Black Pigeon Speaks, that's not a very kind of generic name that everyone finds. And kind of like, what's the story behind it?
Well, the story behind it is I was in India a number of years ago, and I became very, 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 very ill after being bit by some kind of anonymous, undisclosed animal. And I ended up in the hospital for a long, long time. And after a few months in the hospital, people will stop coming as regularly, right? As when they might come by once a week. So I was starved for friends. So what I did is I would go out and I started feeding pigeons outside in the courtyard in the park near the hospital. Bringing my catheters and stuff along the way, and I just became very good friends with them. And the undisclosed place we're in right now is actually a place where I became very good friends with another pigeon who was black, and I called him Navy. He had a broken wing, probably got hit by a car, and I basically took him home and I nursed him back to health. And unfortunately, he ended up dying a number of months later. But it was about right at the same time I started my channel that he died, so I just named my channel after him.
Small acts of kindness that kind of reverberate and kind of expand and build up to something bigger. That's kind of how I see what I'm trying to do on YouTube. I'm trying to do my best to just inform people and help them as much as I can, but it's a big battle as well, and there's other forces. Absolutely. And one thing when you start talking about kind of the bigger philosophies is the more good you do, the more adversities you face. And one thing you told me that's really interesting is that you were, I think, the first channel that was hit by restricted mode by YouTube. I mean, this is the fascinating part. YouTube was like making a big announcement, USA Today, all the mainstream news articles were like, we're going after ISIS, we're going after terrorists, we're going after torture videos, we're going after pedophiles, we're going after real criminals. Next day, bam, you get hit. Why?
Yeah. Well, that was interesting because I made a video that kind of overlaid my understanding of what I'd read via university studies, via evolutionary biologists, sociologists, and a number of different experts on the basic differences between men and women and how we interact in our society based on our evolutionary history and our predilections, and how we interact as a group, as human beings do. Where the basic premise was that men, because of their evolutionary inability to create babies, they have to be able to bring women to them. And the fact is that in history it showed that something like, I think it was about 80% of women were able to procreate, but it was only something like 40 or 30% of men that were able to procreate. And because of the disadvantages and advantages of the different sexes, I made a video about it, and basically talking about women being not the builders of civilization, but they do maintain it by having children, but they're not the builders of it. And that was just, it was basically worse than ISIS. And it was worse than any kind of torture porn, any kind of, that's it, that has to go into YouTube jail. And it was one of the first ones that did, if not the first video. And this is the kind of thing that you were just saying we're up against, Yeah,
there's a lot of different forces out there that are obviously from a different kind of kind of energy, different kind of resonance. The people who lack a lot usually have the most superficial crap around them, and they have to fill in that void within themselves with more useless stuff that they don't even need. So kind of the next question, we also talked about the Federal Reserve and other issues, but I would like to know, kind of from your perspective, what is the bigger truth you think society needs to understand? And the reason I'm asking this is because we were having you on our show, we're getting demonetized, we're getting hit, we're getting restricted, we're getting censored in so many different ways on YouTube, and have been for years. So I always like to give people the opportunity to say like one thing, one message that is the most important for people to understand.
I think it would have to do with freedom. And the ability to be free in your opinions, the ability to be free in your ideologies. So not getting stuck in a paradigm that other people set up for you. So I mean, you can have a position here, but your position over here doesn't have to correlate with this position because it's not part of some sort of set playbook that you're handed over to and you're given. So for example, a lot of people shit on me because I think that single-payer healthcare is much better than what you have in the United States with private healthcare. Oh, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You come to a country like this, it does. I mean, I understand the United States have problems with obesity, these kinds of things. But I guess it's just having a plethora of thought is pretty much, and having an open mind to things, and being able to listen to other people's opinions that you might not generally agree with, but they might in fact change your mind, if that makes sense.
It's always important to listen to both sides of the stories. The mind works best when it's open. It works best when it's like a parachute. And sadly, we're seeing the bigger kind of foes, the bigger kind of social engineers, even I would argue the kind of the deep state kind of push on squashing that, saying, no, shut up, your voice is inappropriate. We may not agree on everything 100%, but I will fight till my death to hear you speak, no matter what you say, even if I find it repugnant or disgusting or whatever it is. I don't care. It doesn't matter. One last thing, Federal Reserve. This is kind of our major topic that we always talk about. To me, it's something incredibly important because once you start learning about the creatures from Jekyll Island, once you start learning about how our economic system works and how real power works, I think you really see everything in society also as kind of a falsehood. So to me, the Federal Reserve, we're talking about that as the main issue. Why do you find it important?
Well, the centralized banks, if you actually start going down, as you said, Jekyll Island, but this goes back even further. This goes back centuries. And what you have is banks always trying to gain control over the ability to print countries' money. And what they're doing is they're giving themselves a check and creating a blank check to themselves, but they're also creating debt slaves. And just have to hold on there for a second. They're also creating a system of debt slavery. And the reason it's so important is that people really need to understand that this is not the way they've always been this way, but they haven't always been this way, and they don't always need to be this way. So the Federal Reserve is, I think, and the central banks, the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, all of them, are one of the greatest institutions of enslavement of our species. And it's done to the detriment of all for the benefit of the few. So yeah, it's one of the most critical things that people need to educate themselves on. And even last night when we were having our dinner, our drinks, and we were talking to our friend who works in the bank, and he was saying, all of us in the banking industry, we realize we don't need these guys. So even people that work within the industry realize that it's a scam. It's just a scam that we all go along with.
And not talk to you for a very specific reason. If you do talk about them, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, or you'll be restricted, or you'll be banned, or you'll be censored. And once we have this voice, appreciate it. So I want to thank you so much for the great work you do. Your link will be, of course, in the comment section below. I hope you guys appreciated our message to you. If you do, share this message, because you may not be able to, because we may be restricted and we may be screwed. But when we still have the right, we will use it to its fullest extent. Love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching.